My name is Mark Rutherford. Um, I am one of the co-founders of the charity, the Chloe and Liam Together Trust. The trust was formed in the back end of 2017 after my daughter Chloe and her boyfriend Liam were both tragically killed in the Manchester arena bombing.
Brilliant. So I was just going to, that's the first question I was going to ask you was about the Together Forever Trust. I suppose the key thing is why you started it, how you started it, and kind of what it means for you, now, sort of 8 years on.
Originally was started because we were in Manchester for the full 2 weeks before we could bring the kids home with us. We didn't leave until we could bring them home. Um, and unknown to us, because we never seen any media coverage or anything at the time. Really, we deliberately didn't watch TV and stuff. People back in our community in South Shields do what people do, I suppose, and everybody was having collections left, right, and centre. And when we returned home a few days later, our brother-in-law got in touch saying that he had buckets full of money from lots of collections, and people had done loads of different things because they just felt as though they needed to do something. And obviously, we had these buckets for a long time in the house and things, and we were like, "But what we're going to do with it?" It took us a while to come round to an idea, if you like, and obviously, I think if, I think it was back end of September where we first thought about starting a charity for the help people. That's both Chloe and Liam both loved. Like, Liam loved his sport, and Chloe was a performer, so we just thought we'd try and help people in that genres, if you like, to give them a little bit of a financial backup.
And you've helped quite a few people, haven't you, since that? So how many, do you know how many young people
Uh,
you've helped?
Actually, individually, people, I'm not too sure because we just go on applications, and applications are groups and teams and
Right.
etc. in community centres and everything. But actual applications is over 1,000 applications.
Wow.
And like I think we've bought about 3 or 4 boxing rings now, which obviously are going to last for many years, and
Mm.
lots of children get used of them. So stuff like that, where it'll just hopefully roll on, and we've deliberately made a point of putting through people through like the coaching badges and stuff like that. So obviously that rolls out for many years to young children as well. So it keeps on going. That's the type
Mm.
of thing we're trying to help.
Yeah, sort of building it. And do you see people, from say 6 years ago and how they've developed with that extra help you've been able to
Yeah,
give?
because some of them, some of the first ones that we helped, our trustees at the time, we made a point of saying we would like to follow through and help these sort of every year to see
Right.
how to see where they get to once they become adults, sort of thing. So obviously 6 years ago, some of them are like have gone off to university now and 19, 20 years old, and they're doing really well, and they've had success in athletics and stuff like that. They're running for Team GB and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we've had some really good things.
And you've raised, and now get me right, you raised more than £1 million. Did you ever expect when you were obviously talking about what you wanted to do that you would get to that point? And how do you feel about getting to that kind of milestone?
I think when we first started off, it was more of a worry of would we have people would it last? Obviously,
Mm.
it was in the public eye at the time, but it's a worry that obviously if everybody goes back to their day job and carries on. Would it actually have the backing and keep on going? But it has just grown from strength to strength, which is great for us. No, we never thought we'd reach £1 million. I think we were pretty much in shock when the accountant got in touch and told us the news, because it's not something that you sort of forget about. It just obviously we made a point from day one that we wanted to be transparent, and we wanted everybody to know where the money was going. So
Mm.
every time the money comes in, basically it goes out. We don't hang on to it. We didn't want to hang
Yeah.
on to it. No, nobody takes a wage or anything like that. It's if we wanted it, so it's going straight back out to the kids to give them a chance. So yeah, just the fact that obviously the accountant was putting the yearly figures in, that he come back to us and says you've hit £1 million.
Wow. And I know you publicize a lot of it as well, being like you say, transparent. A lot of how you support people through social media. So there's a lot of stories that you people can obviously follow as well.
Yeah, I think it's. I think some of the feedback that we've had, especially when we have our annual charity ball, obviously there's a lot of corporate people come along, and
Mm,
we show some videos and updates of the people that were helped, and the feedback from them is it's great to see where the money goes to, because they don't always see from other charity, which has obviously got nothing
mm,
to do with me. But yeah, they quite like that, so that's a good thing.
yeah. So I was going to ask you about Chloe because you've talked about obviously the trust, and I was going to say feel whatever you feel able to, just so that people can get a feel for Chloe and obviously who she was because we don't often get that, from incidents and things that
Yeah,
happen.
to be fair, Chloe, I think if people are looking on from the outside now of the charity and stuff like that, probably think like because we're supporting dance and drama and whatever else, just
Mm,
was quite flamboyant, but she certainly wasn't. She was the opposite. She was very quiet, kept herself to herself, but we seen the big change of her when she went on stage to perform. It was a
yeah,
bit of a surprise sort of thing. She could turn herself into something else, which was great to see. But in general life, she was very quiet, um, very polite. She'd do anything for anybody, sort of thing. Never any trouble from her. We had nothing whatsoever from her. She was fine. She was perfect. So
yeah. And you've built a strong relationship, haven't you, with Liam's family as well?
yeah,
Um,
we sort of knew Liam's family beforehand, just briefly, because my son played with Liam at the cricket club, and his dad played cricket and stuff like that. So we knew them from a distance. We didn't really know them personally. And obviously, once the kids got together, we sort of knew who they were. But we didn't have a
mm,
great deal to do with each other. I mean, it was just we met up a few times when there was parties and stuff like that. But now, because Caroline lost her husband 6 weeks before the kids,
yeah,
um, and obviously she's got a younger son as well. They've just become part of the family now. We're all Caroline and my wife Lisa's together now. They've become sort of sisters, which is
yeah,
great. That we obviously losing our husband, losing our son. We wanted to make a point of that. We would, try and take care of her, if you like. I know she's a growing woman, but it's been good.
yeah.
Obviously we've met a lot of their family as well now, and everybody gets on. So we'll have a lot of meetups with obviously through the trust and stuff. So yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, and I think when I've heard at least talk. I've heard around the kind of relationship that was built out of quite very difficult circumstances.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, it's I suppose because we were thrust together at that time. Um, I think obviously as time's gone on, there's been that bond from day one of um, like I say, I hadn't really met Caroline a great deal, to be fair. Probably more of her husband at the cricket and
Mm,
stuff. So um, rushing on the actual night when it happened, rushing home from work because I was on night shift to pick my wife up, then pick Caroline up, who I hadn't really met.
yeah.
Um, in just drive to Manchester, which was quite. I don't know how I say it this day. I don't know how I got there because I just can't remember anything of the journey. So I
Mm.
have no idea.
And it's obviously hugely traumatic. And so I just wanted to kind of ask about the role of the media and social media, really positive in terms of how you're using it now for the trust. But in those early days, in that kind of initial kind of aftermath, and I know you didn't watch the media, but has it had much of an impact? Did it at the time? And is
Obviously,
that,
like I say, yeah, we didn't see much TV because we were all locked in our bedrooms and whatever else.
mm,
But actual when we came home and stuff like that, and when people are trying to get in touch with you and stuff like I say, it's one of those things where social media has its place and it's a help at sometimes, but it's a very big hindrance also. It wasn't ideal in times, stuff that were like stuff I suppose we're not expecting, and you all of a sudden see Chloe singing on the TV and stuff like that, and you think, well, where did they get that from? And they've
Yeah.
just been on, or photos from our last holiday and stuff like that. They've just been on people's Facebooks and took them off without any permission, if you like. Um, so some things are a bit shocking. Obviously, they're just doing a job and they don't see it that way. But um, unfortunately, we had reporters and stuff come to the door, the front door, and some of them were fine, just said we didn't want to speak, and
Mm.
some had stuck their foot in the door and didn't want to, they wouldn't let us shut the door. So we've had it from both
Yeah.
sides. Um, and social media wise, obviously, you get a bit of both, where it's nice to see some of the comments, but then some of them are just ridiculous, and people
Mm.
start making their own minds up with what's happened, and start spreading
Yeah.
rumors that isn't true. So yeah, it's a really uncomfortable time, really, when stuff like that happens.
Yeah. And you kind of go as well from, like you were saying, work, just do going about things to into this world of where reporters turn up at your door, which um, is there anything when you think back that you would have needed or wanted or that could have been done? You've talked a little bit about the media and social media, that would have helped.
I think that initially, I think it wasn't too bad, as in we still had our FLOs from the
Family
police.
liaison, yeah.
Obviously, we had different family liaisons and officers in Manchester, but then they passed over to the northeast ones down there,
Mm,
who came home with us. So for the time, like shortly afterwards, we had them visiting regular. But obviously, once that started drifting a little bit,
mm,
it become harder because we had to start answering and
yeah.
different things like that. So I think in that respect, it was handled well for us from the police and stuff like that. And down Manchester, we couldn't fault the people that were looking after us. Um, but it's yeah, I can't really pick out one thing, to be fair, which I wish I could. But I know at the time there was quite a few frustrating things that were being put out on the TV,
Mm,
which weren't true. People, somebody done an article saying, because we were on TV or whatever, saying that my wife injured in the Manchester arena, blah blah blah. My wife's been in a wheelchair for a long time, nothing to do with the arena. So
yeah.
people reporting false things. It was it's frustrating, and it obviously at the time very angry at the time.
Mm,
So it doesn't help, puts you
yeah.
even more if you like. So it's yeah, some I don't know. Some things are good, and some things are horrendous.
Mm, yeah. It's a very difficult time, but I think there's a bit as you were saying about social media and the way photographs, images, video, and things are taken that can be really difficult. And in terms of like you were saying, how it appears, and perhaps there's something for people to think about
Yeah.
when
Well,
they are.
the daft thing was because the media took photos and stuff like that. We obviously Facebook and different things shut Chloe's down
Mm.
without us knowing. So we've never been able to retrieve what's on on the Facebook or on
Oh,
Instagram because of the publicity effect. They automatically shut it down without us knowing. So and it's just refused point blank refused to let we have the photos off there, which is annoying. But the police
mm.
tried their best and still couldn't get them either. So yeah, just
Yeah,
again, you don't realize, you don't even think about stuff like that. And yeah, again, being naive, didn't think that people would go on your Facebook and pinch your photos to put on the TV either. But it's
yeah,
a learning.
I know. And sadly, I was going to say this is why it's good to talk to you. It's something that still happens, and it's still a problem, and with perhaps a bit, I suppose, um, of trying to get the media and people to see it slightly differently. I know there's various reports and things that have
Yeah,
been done as well around trying to kind of look at that. Um, just going, I know you talked about trying to remember some of the kind of things, but are there any when you kind of look at it now? Are there any phrases? Is there any kind of ways that people talked about it that caused you particular concern or upset, or on the alternative, or that you actually said, do you know what, that's actually quite fair or that feels better in
Yeah.
terms of how it's reported?
Um, Again, because we weren't really in the right mind space, if you like, at the time, and
Mm,
I think just about everything annoyed with, if you like. So
right.
even just words of being victims and in the
Mm,
word in the in the wrong place at the right whatever. The, as far as we're concerned, we don't see them as victims. They were in the right place. They weren't in the wrong place. They were doing things that were right. It wasn't so just
mm,
little things that probably means nothing to other people, So, but for us, they were in the right. It was him that was in the wrong. It wasn't them people that were in the wrong place, if you like. But I don't know. It's just hard. It's one of them things where it's simple things are just hard to hear, even like seeing they're dead. It's just like
yeah.
cringing. But yeah, but it's true, isn't it? So, but it's at the time, to me, I would try personally. I would like saying that obviously they've bereaved or whatever, but just saying
Mm,
that coming blank out saying they're dead is like was a bit taken back by some people's comments and stuff like that. But
mm.
yeah, but I think like I
But
say, majority of the time, actually down Manchester when we were putting the Etihad Stadium and all, we were looked after really well by the
mm,
Swan bereavement nurses and stuff like that. Again, we had a few incidences where people say things that they shouldn't say
yeah,
and basically told us that they were still alive and they had been found in a hotel, which was totally untrue. Why
yeah,
somebody would come around saying that, I don't know. Looking back, it wasn't as private as it should have been when we were actually told about the kids, which we had fed back.
mm,
Um, but in general, it was,
yeah,
I think it was from a family point of view, it wasn't great, but I think for them, it was probably something out of the ordinary anyway. It hadn't happened before, sort of thing. So it was a bit of a learning thing for them as well.
yeah. And this is part of the importance of kind of talking to you because these are the conversations that we'll often have when I'm doing training sessions with people. Um, and it's really important that they think these things
Yeah,
through in terms of, like you say, some of the words and some of the
yeah.
phrases that can impact. And people often talk about trying to show kind of empathy in public statements and or saying things in public statements that might kind of help. In kind of thinking about from your experience, would is that something that you would think is beneficial? You know, we talked about some of the brutal sort of phrases that we used
Yeah, I
in
think for
trying to put that in.
Yeah, I think for me personally, and I know my family in Carolina and whatever, I think empathy is a big thing for us. And the way
Mm,
things are worded is massive. It can have a big impact. It did have a big impact.
mm,
Um, like I say, you're already angry. Your emotions all over the place, and just certain things when you see people the way things have been worded, it's very yeah, it can get you back up quite easily.
yeah. So, in terms of people who do the emergency communication, and I'm thinking not necessarily the journalists because they'll be the people putting the information out potentially to the journalists. Um, how could they bring that into what they do? You know, is there an element of, and I know I've probably been guilty in the past of being a bit too, these are the, this is the facts, these are the information, which actually feeds then into perhaps some of the media reporting in that way.
Again, I think that'd be it's quite hard to roll that out teaching wise because I think every person that you're going to tell is going to receive things differently. For me, I'd prefer somebody to just come and give us the complete facts and truth straight and
Mm,
not go around the world if you like.
yeah,
And some people will go around the world and not want to be seem nasty about things and stuff like that. But it's like some of the stuff with think we should have been told earlier.
mm,
We do now know the new different things at the time, and if they had just come up and said it, that would be great. Um, because again, it just adds to your frustration of when you do hear these things that they could have told you that a long time ago, sort of thing. Um, but yeah, I think that would be a hard one to actually teach somebody, sort of thing. I mean,
mm.
could you read somebody that quickly if you're in that sort of situation? I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
for me personally, I just prefer them to come and say, "This is what's happened. yeah, we've got Chloe. This is, it would have been
Yeah,
horrific, but it was horrific anyway.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it can be sometimes that the people and feel they're protecting
yeah, yeah.
families, but like you say, perhaps it's a sort of consideration of, is this, like you were saying, going to be more difficult or more have a more severe impact? It comes, 3,
Yeah.
4 weeks, months later, rather than trying to kind of be more open and transparent at an earlier stage.
They definitely needed to take us to a private room and they told us, which didn't happen, which was, thinking at the time. Again, there was a lot of families in the Etihad at the time, and basically when they called a certain family out, you knew what was happening. And then unfortunately you can hear
Yeah.
people's screams and cries and stuff.
Mm.
You think, well, you shouldn't be to hear this. It's so I think
Yeah.
they thought they were doing a good thing, but as it turned out, they had I don't know where it was. It was like a glass fronted of the stadium, and again when we came home, basically you could see pictures of the film crews from the car park had been filming through the glass windows. So you were on the TV, basically getting told the worst
Yeah.
news of your life. So I think they didn't really think that one through.
Mm.
But in general, they
Yeah.
did do a great job.
Yeah. But the important bit for me is always that detail, and those details, and sometimes like with that location or whatever, just taking yourself outside of what they were dealing with
Yeah,
might have flagged that up. So I mean, I think these little bits that, like you say, might not have had a massive impact, but still had an impact, and perhaps
yeah,
could have been
yeah,
better handled. A bit like the words we were talking about and the
yeah,
different
yeah.
words that you could choose. So, in terms of kind of where you are, what drives you forward now? Because it's, both on a daily basis, having been through, a terrible traumatic experience that I get frustrated. People kind of go, oh, hopefully people get some closure or the whatever, and you don't. You live, don't you, on a
Yeah.
daily basis with the trauma. So what drives you both on a daily basis for
It's
yourself and also with the charity?
but to be fair, it is the charity that drives us. Again, from like so now looking at as what we've got now with the charity, that is what the focus is. It's creating that everlasting legacy for Chloe and Liam. Um, that's been my drive for a long time. I don't like some people who when they do things for the trust, when it sort of turns around, it's more about them than it is about the trust sort of thing, which gets us mad about. But that's something we've been learning. Um,
Yeah.
I think at the time when it just before we started doing the trust, it was obviously horrendous.
Mm.
We weren't in a good place. We still have plenty of times we're not in a good place, and it's again stuff like for me you just don't realize at the time when you see things on the TV and people who I unfortunately like so my upbringing sort of thing was always you just get on with it, just stop moaning, get on with
Yeah.
it and whatever else, but you just don't realize how that trauma takes over. And I
Mm.
was never somebody for counselling and stuff like that. I would always say, it's rubbish. But uh, it's helped me a lot. I
Yeah.
was never the type of person to talk and stuff like that, but it's helped me massively. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't. So
Mm.
I got to that point where I wouldn't be here. So luckily for the help I did receive, it has helped. But it's yeah, I just have to focus on the trust basically now. Is obviously myself and my wife Lisa, we've been together since school. So I was we've never had a crossword in our lives until this happened. It's very, very strange.
Yeah.
If I think some people think you've got each other, but if you're in different grieving stage, it's very strange. Um, with many a time we've just sat opposite each other on the settees and not spoke and total silence in the house. It still happens now, which we just laugh about now, but it's just one of them things. Yeah,
Mm.
it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. My dad likens it sort of grief because when we lost mum quite suddenly, not in a traumatic experience,
Yeah.
that it's like a big hole and you walk
Oh yeah.
round, you learn to walk round it, but some days you fall in it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's always there, and I think that's the bit that I suppose when I hear phrases that people use around moving on and all that, it's always there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always
Yeah.
there.
Definitely. Yeah. Kind of get away from it no matter what. Which
Yeah.
again, my son's just had a little boy, which is the first grandson.
Oh,
Um, and again, it just brings back Chloe's not here. She's would have been
yeah,
an auntie and stuff. It's all little things just that just
yeah,
keep adding up all the time. So, but that's just every anniversary that comes around somewhere. It's not easy, but we've found ways to get by, sort of thing.
yeah. And counsel, I mean, I'm a bit like you, and I've had counselling on a couple of occasions and grief counselling, and it is in the right way with the
Yeah.
right person. So it's great that kind of that happened. Um, just before I ask you about the kind of next stages for the charity, if there will be people going through traumatic experiences now, perhaps not as yours was, but in sort of similar in other ways. Are there any sort of words of, I would say advice, but it perhaps sounds a bit odd to say advice, but anything that you would say, would think about these things to kind of help you through a difficult experience?
Looking back now, I think I know it's said a lot on the TV and whatever else now, but um, to just try and talk to somebody. If like I
Yeah,
said, I'm not that type of person. I would just I lost my mum when I was 26. My dad had died 10 years before the kids. So just little things where I would just bottle up all the time. That's just the
mm,
way it was. So I mean, don't get us wrong. I did search. I didn't take counselling straight away. So I sort of got myself in a bad place and
mm,
then cried for help, if you like, which luckily come along. But yeah, some people haven't got anybody that likes. If I would never talk to family members because I just think, well, obviously they're probably not going through the same grief as me, but it's like putting onto them as well. I personally prefer somebody who's not connected to it. So, but again, like I said to you about Lisa and Caroline, they used to meet up and talk things through, and I was sort of on the outside of things, so I was
mm,
sort of didn't really want to get involved with anybody to talk to. So it probably didn't help us at the time. Early on, I probably should have talked to somebody at the time, but it's been a bit difficult for us. I think it's a bit of a strange situation. We're having obviously what happened, and then going
mm.
into the Old Bailey, the criminal court, and
Yeah,
then straight into the inquiry.
inquiry. Yeah.
But the inquiry was just about to start when COVID, so it was just like a crazy time. So
Mm,
didn't really. I think COVID probably did help for us because we couldn't see
mm,
anybody. um, we had great weather, so we could sit in the garden and not be disturbed, and so I think that probably did help us a little bit. But yeah, it was just seemed to again drag on and drag on for us. It was like still going for the 4 years later or 5 years later with the inquiry, and people still didn't understand. We were getting police come to the front door and stuff like that. This is happening, that's happening. Like, well, surely that's all finished with now. And
mm,
obviously, we weren't allowed to tell anybody what was going on and stuff like that. But yeah, it was definitely wasn't what I obviously expected it. I've never just naively didn't think the things we've had to do would have to
mm.
happen, sort of thing.
And
But definitely talking to somebody
yeah,
again, it has helped. I must admit, it has helped me. So
yeah. No, I would always say. I mean, I've kind of a changed person over the last few years from that. From that. Um, how now? So it's 8 years, wasn't it, this year?
yeah,
How does it hit in terms of anniversaries when that happens? When the May comes around, do you find a particular way of dealing with it? Because it's there every year, isn't it? That's gonna
one of the
happen.
for the actual anniversary itself, we basically don't go out the house.
Mm,
Um, we've got a lovely. memorial bench at our town hall, which was again made by two local lads who knocked on the front door and asked if they could make a, and they made this amazing. It's metal, the bench, which has got Ariana Grande's lyrics in and Chloe's piano or
Mm,
Liam's cricket bat and all this. Just so a lot of people go down to the town hall on the actual day and lay flowers and stuff like that. We don't go anymore. We'd go the night before and put ours down just because of the amount of people that's there, and it's difficult.
mm,
Um, but actually, on the actual day now, we have, because of the trust, the town itself come up with the idea of having a pink and blue day. So as much as it's a horrible day, the town itself, the businesses and shops decorate everything pink and blue. They do raffles and cake sales and whatever else, and raise money for the trust, which is they send all their photos through with on like throughout the day. So
mm.
it's one of them bittersweet things where you're getting some lovely things coming through. Again, they've just raised just under 20,000 on one day.
Wow.
You know, it's just like crazy. But
Yeah.
I suppose again, I keep on saying it's the lasting legacy, and so it's awful for us, but it's also nice as well at the same time. So
Mm.
it's a funny day.
Yeah, difficult. And you mentioned the word victim, which
Yeah,
you talked about, and then I've heard Lisa talk about not wanting Chloe's name to be attached forever to what happened.
yeah,
Is just kind of talk us through. Is that something that kind of drives you to kind of create this legacy of in this
yeah.
way?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're just forever going to be attached to what happened, and that's
Mm,
we can't get away from that. But hopefully, as the way things are going at the moment, we want people to years down the line. Obviously, it's funny because some of the people like we help now, we don't realize they were like probably 5 or 6 at the time and didn't know nothing about it.
mm,
So now they've got a bit older. It's being educated about it in one way, but they'll hopefully look upon it as, oh, that's Chloe Rutherford, that's Liam Curry who helped my friend go to the Olympics or whatever. That's the sort of
yeah.
thing we want it to be, but hopefully in time that'll come around. But that's the we're trying to create a positive thing out of something horrific
Mm,
for us. And like I say, even likes of our, like I just said, mentioned the town hall. The town hall, they've now got, because they have a lot of schools visiting and stuff like that. They've now got part of the tour of the town hall and the visit because of the benches outside. They've got part of their learning is about why that bench is there for, and so the school children coming through with know why it's there for. So yeah, it's just always going to be attached to the Manchester Arena. We get that, but hopefully in a positive note as well.
yeah. So, last got question is what next for the charity? You went after the £1 million, and are there any other kind of milestones or achievements that you would like to get to?
It's again, we're quite happy the way things are going. We're not. There was a point where we probably we wanted to be like a national charity, but we've seen how difficult it is just being a small charity. And we don't really want to have premises. We don't want to have lots of people with wages and etc. So we probably will just stay the way we are at the moment. Um, Obviously, milestones will just keep pushing for the next million, and help as many people as we can. That's the aim, and hopefully, hopefully by doing that, it keeps Chloe and Liam's name alive, and people people will see it for what it is. Hopefully, or it's a positive thing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure. Absolutely. And I'll put some links when we kind of I do some bits for this. I'll put the links in as well. But yeah, it's amazing that you've helped so many young people, and to see, as people can do on social media, the positive that it brings
Yeah,
them. And it's a great legacy, isn't it, to have?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much. I really, really appreciate it. And you've been really open. So that's really, I really appreciate that. And I think there's some useful points to help people just to get them to think a little bit differently when
I think one of
they're
the things that
responding.
I was going to say, one of the things that I always say for me, I mean, I'm a joiner by trade. So one of the things, even like through work and stuff that I always say, and I think that applies to anything, is just think about how you'd expect somebody to treat you. Like, so if I go and do a job at somebody's house, I only do that job as well as I would do in my own house, not just go at somebody else's. I'm not bothered. So I think if you think that, how would you like to receive that news about your loved one? Just have a little think about it. Yeah.